Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We are your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan, and we have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows. It's Razzie Month.
It's Razzie Month.
With me, as always, is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Don't do stupid things.
This is in association with Stay Doomed. Not Stay Doomed. Just like this movie's in association with Marvel.
Yeah.
But it's not Marvel. That is how the movie opens.
Yes.
In association with Marvel. Today, we are doing Madam Web.
Yes, it's finally time for Madam Web. I've been excited for this since the movie came out. Everyone was like, it's terrible, it's going to be a Razzie nod. I was like, all right.
Yeah, we knew and we were prepared.
Yes, so I've been super pumped for this, and did not disappoint.
I mean, it was a really disappointing film, but it was definitely a Razzie movie.
So let's jump right into Madam Web as we jump deep into the Peruvian Amazon in 1973.
I'm sorry, I'm still not over the fact that this movie starts with in association with Marvel. Like, Marvel's like, we don't know her, but, like, we let her hang out with us sometimes because we feel bad.
We associate sometimes, but we're not friends.
This is my acquaintance, Madam Web. Like, there's something so supremely damned with faint praise about it that it just, it really tickled me.
Yes.
So, we open on the Amazonian rainforest, and a woman is trying to study spiders in the rainforest, and a man named Mr. Sims is talking about the folklore of the region.
That spider can give superhuman strength and power like las arañas.
Las arañas? The mythical spider people who...
Which should be respected.
Yes. This opening of these two people deep in the wilderness looking for a mysterious breed of creature is the exact opening to Morbius.
I thought Morbius was like, hey, orphans.
No, there's that whole first scene where they're in the caves.
Oh yeah, because bats.
Because bats. It is the same exact opening, except it's daytime.
Corporate needs you to find the difference between these two films. They're the same picture.
So I was like, it's so weird to immediately invoke Morbius, but we have this woman who does look like, I'm going to say this wrong at least once, Dakota Johnson?
Dakota Johnson.
Okay, I've been fighting the urge to say Dakota Fanning.
Very different human.
Very different human. But looks enough like Dakota Johnson that I was like confused for a second. But it is clearly her mother.
Yes.
And they're searching for this spider, and weirdly, hiding under a red umbrella, which is symbolism. Did you get what this is symbolizing?
No.
It means that she will not be marrying Ted.
You're such a jerk.
Not explaining it. She's looking desperately for this spider, and then all of a sudden she kind of like keels over in pain and goes like, she's kicking, but I'm not going to let her stop me.
She doesn't say she's kicking. She goes, she doesn't want me to get work done. And then stands up, so in case we didn't get it, and like moves her jacket aside so we can see how incredibly hella pregnant it is.
She is unbelievably pregnant.
And then she and Mr. Sims split up, and Mr. Sims is, we by the way don't learn her name, so in my notes she is Prego. He's frantically taking pictures of her research as she finds the most fake-ass looking spider. Well, the most CGI fake-ass looking spider.
Two things I want to point out is, while she's looking for the spider, Mr. Sims is going through her notebooks and, like, her journal. Why do scientists, when they're in the rainforest, fill up all their notebooks with drawings? I was like, wow, she's a really good artist. She's like, picture of a spider with an insane web. It's like, this is your one notebook. Maybe save those pages for, notes.
I mean, I think she's sketching what the particular spider looks like.
She hasn't seen it yet.
What she thinks it might look like. Other spiders she's seen.
For who? For her?
Yeah. Really, that's the plot hole you're going to pick out in this film.
Yeah, because the rest of this movie's sound.
Oh, no, we're about to actually launch into a giant plot hole to me.
Okay.
So, as this is all happening, she finds the spider and she's super excited. And then Mr. Sims, who is talking about how the spider is protected and is protected by the indigenous people, tries to steal it. I mean, shoots all of her friends.
Yes.
And then he eventually shoots her in a struggle over the spider.
Yes.
So, I would have understood this if he'd immediately freed the spider and was like, no, not science. This belongs here. No, he just takes it with him.
No, he wants the spider for himself.
Exactly. What I'm saying is, he was the one lecturing her about folklore and respecting it.
Yeah, you're right. That is the wrong character to be giving that part of the story.
Yeah. Like, if it had been... They hired 2 other actors to play her team.
That's true. That's true. But I would like to just really quick establish that this shows Mr. Sims' basically main character flaw in this. And that is killing all the unimportant people first.
Yeah.
Because if he had just shot her immediately, there wouldn't have been a movie. But something that he will do throughout this film is he takes out random pacifiers first and then focuses on the target.
Yeah, like he kills her team first.
And we have to talk about this guy's accent. Give me the spider.
I'm not interested in helping people. No one helped me when my family was starving. My road was not as clear as yours. We didn't have the same choices.
You're making the wrong decision.
Give me the spider.
I have been searching my mind for what this accent is. And it is the best way that I could explain it. It's like they gave etiquette lessons to the bug from Men in Black.
And My Fair Edgar.
Yes, it is Edgar's voice speaking very properly. Excuse me, madam. Could I please have sugar in water and give me the spider?
The actor is French, so it might be an element of...
I never got French out of this. It is a mix of anime villain and Little Nicky. That is this voice.
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing. He's of Algerian descent and he is French. But beyond that...
So Prego has been shot.
And is dying.
And
then... Great value Spider-Man?
So...
He's clearly meant to invoke Spider-Man. He's color flipped of like, he's more in black than red.
He's in... Like, I think he's supposed to be wearing a web. Like, a black web. But his skin is red. Like, not... like Native American red face, like, you know the pink guy from Dragon Ball Z? That guy. Like Pepto-Bismol-y.
I didn't think that was his skin. I thought he was wearing something.
Oh, he's wearing like these black things, but they look just, it looks like he's wearing like barbed wire, like, but like I kind of took it as it was just black web around him.
So I just pulled up a picture to kind of get a better look at it. Mm-hmm. It looks like he's actually packed in red clay. Oh,
okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, because if you look, he also has like dark makeup under his eyes.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So it looks like it is, for want of a better term, it looks like it's kind of more like ritualistic in dress. and he picks up Prego and does what I can only describe as Twilights her through the jungle. Have you ever seen the first Twilight movie?
Yes.
He hang-on spider monkeys her.
Yes.
This woman who is pregnant and bleeding out.
And I want to just make a point that I write this note. He's like some kind of ... Spider-Man. Hold on to that, dear listener. She gets taken to like some sort of wonder cave. I believe it is where Thor has his flashbacks in Avengers. It may also be where the mermaid is kept in The Princess Daughter, or whatever that movie was. But it's some sort of like water cave.
Yeah, and he puts her into the pool to birth her daughter. Because she is, at this point, actively... There's only one way to save either of them, and it's saving the baby.
Yes.
But he lets the spider bite her first.
Yes, because the spider has powers. But it's too late for her, and she dies.
And he assures her that he will be there for her child when she grows and needs answers.
Yes.
Prologue over. Smash cut to 2003 New York City.
Yes, we're now in 2003 New York City, and she is driving an ambulance like she stole it.
And Ben is trying to do first aid in the back of an audience.
So, let's do real quick.
They mentioned being in Queens.
Yeah.
Ben from Queens.
Ben from Queens.
In the in the MAU, Marvel Associated
Universe. But Laura at this point looks at me and goes, "That's Ben Parker." And I'm like, "No, you're just thinking that because that's Ben Wyatt from Parks and Recreation."
She had called him Ben in my defense.
That's all. And no, it's Ben Parker. It is Ben Parker. It is Uncle Ben Parker.
They do immediately then call him Ben Parker. And the noise I make when watching this is best described as, ah! So...
Also, shout out to Stay Doomed alumnus, Adam Scott, for joining us again here in the not-so-television graveyard.
Dakota Johnson's also a Stay Doomed alum.
Yes.
Because
in the
50
Razzie
Shades of Grey
plot.
movies.
Yes.
So, they bring someone to the hospital, they do their job, and a little boy gives them a little drawing, thanking them for saving his dad. And the victim's stepdaughter volunteers to stay and mind them, and it's Sydney Sweeney.
Yes.
But they're doing this... Sydney Sweeney is objectively one of the most physically attractive actresses currently working. Mm-hmm. They try so hard to nerd her.
She looks...
It's not another teen movie.
I was going to say, it's Jeannie Briggs. It's like, oh no, she's got a ponytail and glasses and the equivalent to overalls in 2003.
Yeah, like she's wearing like a little knee-length like khaki skirt and like a high sweater because she has to be wearing something high cut because Sydney Sweeney's like kind of trademark is her cleavage.
Yes.
So to kind of like obscure that to make her look a bit younger. And Ben makes fun of who we find out is Cassie. Cassie is Dakota Johnson's character.
Yes, Cassie Webb. She's a madam.
I think there's a point where I see that her last name is Webb and I flip out in my notes. But we haven't gotten there yet. We'll get there. And he's drinking Mountain Dew Code Red.
Yes.
Which I point out in my... This movie is best when it's leading into the fact that it is 2003.
Well, they like sit down and they have Chinese food and they're each clutching a Mountain Dew. And in one of my absolute favorite like symbolism moments is they read fortune cookies. And she opens hers and it says, "You will," and then just like a straight line. And I was like, "You will blank in bed?" That's not very good. But she's like, "Look, I have no future." And Ben's like, "Oh no, you know what that means? Printer ran out of ink."
Yeah, it's cute.
This is actually...
They have great platonic chemistry.
It's a really fun scene.
He talks about how he met someone, but he doesn't say her name. Like, we don't know it's May.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to cast who we never see, by the way.
Yes, we never see.
He brings Cassie as his date to his sister's baby shower?
I honestly believe we don't see Aunt May because we would cheer against Aunt May and root for Cassie and Ben. Because their chemistry is so strong.
I also think we don't see her because they are trying to keep this adjacent to Marvel. So they would have had to have cast Marissa Tomei or a Marissa Tomei, like, imitator. Like, someone who could play a 20 years younger Marissa Tomei.
Right.
And then you also kind of then have to deal with the fact that Adam Scott is 51 years old. He doesn't look it. Adam Scott looks about late 30s, early 40s in this film. But you kind of have to deal with the fact that, like, he is with Marissa Tomei, and she is currently, 60. So you'd have to figure out kind of, like, the math there.
Right.
And casting Marissa Tomei looks 45, but you have to cast someone who looks 20 years younger than her. Anywho.
So... she does get invited to Ben's sister's baby shower.
Yep.
Wink, wink. But before that, we have she's a loner. We have the scene of her being a loner.
Yeah, she keys into her building as her downstairs neighbor is trying to negotiate with the landlord about her dad not having the rent.
Yes.
And I want to point this out because her downstairs neighbor does become important.
Right.
She just doesn't lock the door behind her in an extremely cute little apartment.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were trying to imply that this is the same apartment that Peter Parker will eventually live in.
I don't know.
Because I was like, is that the same landlord? Like, it reminded me of, like, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man's building.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much that, like, little Queens walk up.
Yeah. She walks in, and she opens her window, and a cat just walks in.
Yeah.
And she feeds it, and she's like, us strays need to stick together. Do we ever see the cat again?
We do.
We do?
We absolutely do.
Okay, I was like, was that a picture wrap for that cat?
No, I will remind you when we see the cat again. The cat survives. The cat is fine.
Yes.
She's in her feels. She kind of seems like she's in her feels because she's alone, and if Ben's implying he found a partner, her alone buddy.
Yeah.
Because if he's also kind of a loner, who just, like, kind of takes care of his sister sometimes, then she's kind of like, oh no, I don't have a family anymore. She opens this little suitcase she has under her bed and puts the drawing in it, and she looks at what little she has of her mother, which is, like, a picture and some notes. And she kind of resents her mom for dying.
Yeah. Like, work was so important to her that she went to Peru and died instead of being the mother she could have been.
And instead of being anywhere where Cassie does not know the exact nature of her mother's death. She does not know her mother was shot and killed.
Yeah.
So to Cassie later mentions her mother dying in childbirth.
Right.
So Cassie thinks that it's her mom's fault she died because she died in the middle of the rainforest when she really didn't need to.
Yeah, had she been near doctors, it would have been fine.
So we then see Cassie and Ben doing an EMT thing, and they almost hit a pedestrian who flips them off. She's like a young girl on a skateboard. And I'm bringing her up because we're going to see her again.
Yeah.
So they're helping an accident victim, and they're coaching him through being pulled out of a car.
Yes.
But when Ben gets the accident victim out of the car crashes off the bridge with Cassie still inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has a very CGI vision where things flash before her.
She falls into the land of poorly rendered CGI where she is kind of like underwater. There's like popping balloons. Her hands kind of get bloody. She splits into 3 people and then comes back. It is a lot of things happening. And then she wakes up to Ben giving her CPR.
Yes. And as always with movie CPR, her ribs aren't broken. Mm-hmm. She's fine. Yeah. She walks it off.
Yeah. She goes, "Oh my God, did I die?" And Ben goes, "Yeah, a little." Amazing.
So she then has a premonition of what Ben does.
Yes.
And then the scene repeats.
So yeah, like, Ben will say something, and then there will be, like, some noises, and then that exact same thing will happen again. And it's trying to build up this idea that she doesn't realize that she's having a premonition. She just thinks she's in that moment.
Yeah.
But it has one of my absolute favorite lines, which is,
"You need a real workup at a real hospital with a real doctor."
I don't need a doctor. I trust you.
He said you need to go to the hospital.
Yep.
You should maybe trust that then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
There's a lot of great lines like that in this movie.
Cassie then complains that she wants to go home and watch Idol. Mm-hmm. Because it's 2003.
Yes.
And then we catch up with Mr. Sims.
I need to just pause for a moment here.
Sure.
Because what happens is, she wants to go home and watch Idol, and then we cut to who I don't realize is Mr. Sims.
Yeah.
But it is just a nicely dressed man with a beard at the opera. And I instinctually get up and start getting myself something to drink. Because, dear listener, we do most of our watching on YouTube and on Disney Plus, which has ads. This cut is so abrupt that my body instinctually went, "It's an ad. I have 3 minutes to get some water." And then I came back and I was like, "Oh, this is the movie still." Because Netflix doesn't have ads.
So, he goes to the opera late, like a butthole. Like, that to me, that's his establishing evil
Bruce
character.
Campbell wouldn't have let him in.
Exactly. I have a note of, it would have been more fun if they'd seen, like, the musical Kiss of the Spider Woman. Like, get real on the nose with it. We're too early for Turn Off the Dark.
Yeah, far too early for that.
And he's with his date. He still has the spider in a terrarium. Which means that's a very, like, long-lived spider.
Yeah, that spider's awesome.
Because it's been 30 years. Mm-hmm. And he then has a vision of fighting a young woman. And all 3 of the young women are people we've already seen.
Yes.
It's the neighbor, it's the skateboarder, and it's Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, but now they're in, like, wacky costumes.
Yeah, they're in, like, Spider-Woman costumes.
Yes. Which, I meant to look up what these 3 women will become, but I didn't, so we'll have to do that. But he then wakes up from this dream of these 3 women killing him. Like, they like, comedian throw him out a window. And he starts going, like, every night, it's the same 3 faces. They all mock me. And at this point, I'm pretty sure he's entirely ADR.
He is frequently ADR, yes.
Like, so much of him talking, he is not in frame.
Or his mouth doesn't match what he's saying.
Yeah, like, the few times you catch his mouth, it, like, to the point where I was like, I feel like this was recorded in another language. And he's talking to this woman, who's his date from the opera. And I understand this is a podcast, so I have to paint this picture for you. It's the back of his head, and then her looking at him, and then 75% of the frame is empty and it's just a black void.
Yeah.
Why was it shot this way?
Could not tell you.
So much of the frame is empty. Some amazing directing in this.
He then tells his date about this and he goes, I'm going to be murdered one day. And his date goes, that's a buzzkill.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that.
Yeah, this is terrible pillow talk, dude.
And then he talks about the facial recognition software that the NSA is developing. And she reaches for her purse as he starts to poison her with his hand.
Does she grab a gun? I thought she grabbed a gun.
She grabs for her bag, which might be for a gun. But we know she grabs for her bag because we see a clear NSA security badge.
Yes.
He had just been talking about the software the NSA was using.
And he begins to poison her through his thumb and is like, tell me your password and I can save you.
Yeah. And she tells him the password and he lets her die, and predictably.
Because he's evil.
Instead of using the I'll tell you the last character when you heal me.
Yeah.
So she dies. And to me, this is such a weird weasel way of trying to figure out you wanted to set your movie in 2003, but you also wanted access to 2020's technology in your movie. So you had to kind of find a way to, like, weasel through that. Because the entire character of Amaria, his assistant...
Yeah.
is just 2020's tech.
Yes.
So, my next note is, she should have chosen the bear.
Should have chose the bear. This is why you pick the bear. We cut now to the baby shower.
Yeah, and at first it's just Cassie, Ben, and a number of people of color. And I went, Cassie Webb's invited to the cookout.
Yeah, who knew?
And then she white-splains grilling to a black guy.
Yeah, the I think he's like the fire chief.
Yeah.
Is just like pressing the burgers in the grill.
Which you don't do because it gets the juice out.
Getting all the juice, drying out the burgers. Can I have a beer? And Ben Parker's like, no, you died recently. You don't get a beer.
Protocol is 24 hours after your death, no booze.
No booze. Here's a Pepsi. And Cassie like, all right. And she just like holds this Pepsi the whole time for the rest of this.
She does claim she saw New Jersey when she died.
Yes.
And everyone kind of laughs, including the chief, who seems like he was probably from New Jersey, and that was like the joke. Oh, yeah. Oh my god, her last name is Webb. Cassie Webb. Oh my god, I hate comic book movies sometimes. So then we establish Mary, who is Ben Parker's sister-in-law.
Yes, Peter Parker's mother.
Yes.
Who I don't think we've ever seen in a Spider-Man movie.
I don't know.
I didn't watch The Amazing Spider-Man. Sorry, Andrew Garfield.
Richard Parker, his father, is away. And then I had the thought of, isn't Richard Parker the tiger in The Life of Pi? And it is.
Well, I believe in Spider-Man lore...
His father is a tiger.
A spy. He's a spy, I think.
Okay, he's also a tiger.
Okay. I got the joke. But also, I think in the canon, it turns out that his father's a spy of some sort.
Something like
because I think he has ties to Captain America.
Okay.
I think. This is me basing stuff on the Fox show. So, get excited for me to repeat that statement.
So Cassie asks, like, oh, do you know what you're going to name the baby yet? And Mary goes, we're saving that for one of the games. Here is what my note is. Peter. The baby's name is Peter. We're not idiots. The baby's name is Peter. And then they play like a shower game.
And Cassie the whole time is so annoyed that she clutches her Pepsi to her chest. Like it's her comfort animal. Like, oh, I hate this. But at least I have the refreshing cola taste of Pepsi. Pepsi next.
You haven't had to go to baby showers.
Yes, I have. Not many, but I have.
Oh, that's true, because I did force you to go to one.
Yeah, I've gone though. I did my tour of service.
Yeah, we went to one of your family members, and I told you if you left me in that room, I was going to lose it.
And that was as family members were dragging me to be like, this is where the football is. You were like, no.
No.
You're going to look at baby shoes.
Yeah, if I have to, you have to. All other acceptable things would have been me going and watching the game. So, the games at baby showers are generally pretty stupid. I've heard one good baby shower game, and it was at my friend's sister's shower, and it was called Danger Baby. And they took a bunch of plastic babies and took a contest of pictures of who could put their plastic baby in the most danger.
Yeah.
Fantastic shower game.
That's a great game.
This one is about, like, things your mommy used to say to you.
Yes.
And Cassie turns in a blank one.
Yeah, you're supposed to write down your favorite memory of your mom. So Cassie puts in a blank one, and then she opens it and she's like, why is this blank? It's like, oh, because my mom died in childbirth. I heard it wasn't too painful. Like, giving way too much detail, and there would have been nothing that would have prevented her from just not putting that in the box.
She also backpedals it. Like, dying in childbirth's really rare, and she was, like, out in the Amazon. She couldn't get medical attention.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna die in childbirth. And it reminded me of an incident with one of our friends.
Yeah.
Where their baby was sleeping in the carrier, and another friend just looked over and went, "That's one dead baby."
Yeah, you don't say that.
He meant, like, the baby was, like, very asleep.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that same kind of, like, awkward backpedaling.
Yeah.
And then we play Guess the Name of Mary's Baby, and I have a stream of obscenities that end with, "It's Peter."
Yes.
But we don't actually establish it ever in this part of the movie.
No, but we know.
But she gets a premonition. Balloon pops, everyone starts. They have a conversation. And then it happens again. And she goes, wait, we just did this. But instead of the interaction, Ben bursts in and says, there is a fire at the docks.
Yes, everybody's getting called in. There's a fire at the fireworks factory.
I then note that at this point in the movie, Adam Scott has a much larger role than the three women who are supposed to be, like, second, third, and fourth build of the young girls.
Yeah, so far, like, I think they're gonna they take over the film later.
We're, like, a solid 40 minutes in to not really have spent any time with those characters. Like, that's just what I found very interesting. Like, he's not on the poster.
I will say more later, because we have to get through this fire first.
So, there's a fire down at the old fireworks factory down at the docks. So, she is doing CPR on someone who is there, and she has another premonition of an ambulance being hit by a truck and the driver being killed instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And once she has that premonition, she sees the captain, the guy she lectured about grilling,
Yeah.
about to get into an ambulance, and she begs him to let her drive. And he doesn't let her.
Yeah.
Because she just died.
Yes. She shouldn't be driving.
And then he is hit by a truck and dies.
Yes.
She justifiably melts down. And Ben says, there's nothing you could have done. There's nothing you could have done. Which...
But there was.
She doesn't feel is true.
Yeah. We then get this scene with Mr. Sims and this assistant who kind of plays like a Oracle type role.
We have Oracle at home.
We will never see her not at this giant computer. And basically what they do is he describes these three girls that he sees constantly killing him. Then with computer technology, they de-age them up to 10 years. Because he knows in 10 years they will kill him. So he's going to use all this NSA, security cameras to locate these three girls and kill them. Basically, he's using the spider in the same way that she uses the spider, but he's honed it. So now we're in this situation where he's going to, kill baby Hitler and, prevent this from happening because he has all this knowledge.
He also has photo-perfect pictures of all three girls, perfectly de-aged, with the hairstyles they currently wear.
It's good software.
Which kind of cracks me up, because it's so unrealistic. Especially because he doesn't know exactly how old they are, but he manages to get... I could describe a face to even a very good artist, and I don't know that they could necessarily get Sydney Sweeney's exact features down.
Right.
So, The assistant is a bit squeamish about how young the girls are and feels weird about the fact that he is going to go kill 3 teenage girls. This scene is very 80 yard.
Yes, it is quite 80 yard.
We get a little scene where Cassie gets put on leave and is like laying in bed, and a pigeon.
Wait, there's something very important
Go right
I need
ahead.
to say before we get to the pigeon.
She drinking a Pepsi?
1, Pepsi. 2, she was just at a barbecue, right?
Yep.
A barbecue in Queens, right? Mm-hmm. Summertime activity.
Yeah.
She's at home watching a Christmas Carol. And, like, it's solely so that during all of this you can get, are these the visions of things that will be, or things that could be only? It's for that moment. But guys, why are you showing a Christmas Carol in the summer? This is dumb.
So she makes some popcorn, and then as the thing dings, a beat later, a pigeon flies into her window and dies.
Yes.
And then she hears the ding of the microwave again.
Yes.
And this time she opens the window. Mm-hmm. The pigeon flies in, lands in her apartment, goes, ew, this place sucks, and leaves.
Nevermore.
So she realizes now that she can change what happens in these visions.
Yes, and you pick up on a nice little detail here. I don't want to steal your thunder on it, of when the pigeon hits the window. It breaks and creates like a web like effect.
This is the first time I notice it. It's probably been happening the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I can assure you happens throughout the rest of the film.
Yes.
Because now I can't unsee it. Mm-hmm. So Cassie is walking through Grand Central and she's asking for a ticket to Poughkeepsie, ostensibly to go to the funeral?
I guess that...
We never really find out why she's in Grand Central. I assumed it was that she, like, decides to go to the funeral.
Right.
Because she never mentions any other objective. So all 3 women and Cassie, all 3 of the young girls and Cassie, are all in Grand Central Station.
I gotta bring this up.
Yes.
Because I actually like this. All 3 girls are in the Grand Central Station. Because basically through the background checks and all the stuff they did, they were able to figure out it's probably these 3 girls. I need to kill them. And then they're conveniently all in the same spot.
Yeah.
And he says, what connects them? And she says, nothing. Nothing connects them. And then he says, or maybe nothing connects them yet. There's this kind of nice little through line of like, he's having these visions that these 3 girls are going to kill him, but also his actions are what's going to lead to that.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of this nice tangled web of like fate versus free will, and like even with precognition, what is destiny?
Yeah, like...
And I was like, okay, I see you. And like when Cassie walks through this Grand Central and they're all in the background, they don't put like a spotlight on them.
No.
It's not like she bumps into them and is like, hey, where are you going? It's subtle. It's actually pretty good. It's actually nicely done.
So each of the women in turn gets on the same train as Cassie. And Cassie has a premonition of Sims violently murdering each of them.
Yes. The premonitions take way too long. Because I think they need to establish, like, this is a premonition, this is reality. No, this is the premonition, this is reality. It's trying to create this more chaotic version of spider sense. Where when Peter Parker has a spider sense, he's just like, imminent danger of some sort, get on high alert. While this is kind of like glimpses of the future and things that could be.
So they start to kind of Cassie weirds them out until they get off the train.
Yes.
And then there's kind of a misunderstanding where one of the girls is like, are you trying to abduct us? And this sort of lasts until they see evil Spider-Man.
Yes. This evil Spider-Man starts, like, crawling on the ceiling towards them. And Cassie's like, there's the emergency we need to run from. Let's run.
Yeah.
And they kind of, like, jump in and out of cars of a train.
They pass a delightful 17 ad with Paris Hilton, because it's 2003.
Oh, I missed that. Good catch.
It pleased me greatly.
And then they get away, and then they're, like, about to escape when the police come to arrest Cassie for abducting these three. Because one of them had said, like, we're being abducted. As she's being arrested, Sims, the evil Spider-Man, comes in and kills all the police officers. And the four of them get away.
Yeah.
Because once again, Sims' character flaw
is killing bystanders first.
It's killing the bystanders first instead of the person that he should be focused on.
So they get up from the subway. Because Sydney Sweeney's in this movie, I noticed a shot where, like, it's weirdly upskirt.
Yeah, I didn't catch it, but you were immediately like, eh.
And then Cassie steals a cab.
Cassie just straight up steals a cab. And they are trying to drive to a safe place, and we're trying to learn who these girls are. So we finally get their names.
Yes.
That I did not write down. Do you have them?
Yes. The skateboarder's name is Maddie, and her father has money. She goes to private school. She's the pedestrian who flipped off the ambulance. Mm-hmm. Anya is the neighbor who was negotiating rent with the landlord. And Julia is Sydney Sweeney.
Now, I am not positive about this, and I elbowed you because I wasn't sure. So we might have to look this up. But Maddie, the skateboarder, at one point says something like, I can call my Uncle Jonas.
Jonah. Yeah.
Prowler, right?
Jameson.
Oh, J. Jonah Jameson was what that was supposed to be referencing? I thought it was supposed to be I thought we were in Miles Morales, and that was supposed to be Prowler.
No, I'm, like, looking this up on the wiki right now because I'm almost positive. So, yeah, J. Jonah Jameson, his niece is Maddie.
Wow. J. Jonah, for a guy who hates people in masks doing vigilante justice, J. Jonah Jameson loves to be surrounded by them. So, while we're here, can we figure out who these superheroes that they will become are? Because I thought you were going to tell me that Maddie becomes Tinkerer, and I'm guessing that's wrong.
No, she is Spider-Girl.
Spider-Girl?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So she, like, actually has, like, mechanical spider arms.
Yes.
She's kind of Dr. Octopusy.
Sydney Sweeney is Spider-Woman.
Okay.
And Anya is Aranya.
Aranya. Discoteca.
Which, Aranya is also the name of the indigenous people who have the spider powers.
Yes.
In the rainforest where
in Peru.
Cassie's mom dies.
Yes. So
the girls all realize how they know Cassie. Because Cassie yeets Maddie's cell phone out the window.
Yes, because we don't want to get tracked.
And Julia goes, wait, you saved my stepmother and you were super awkward about it. Now, I will say, super awkward is very 2023.
Yes.
Like, awkward started being used all the time in, like, the mid-late 2000s. 2003 is too early. Mm-hmm. They would have been saying random. Like, oh, that's so random. That's what girls were saying in 2003.
Random? I feel like random was later, but I could be wrong.
No, that was very early 2000s. And then Anya goes, wait, you leave your junk mail in the lobby. And she's like, well, they should have a recycling... Like, the idea of being Cassie kind of sucks.
The dialogue between the four of them is all kind of just fun.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoy the dialogue between them.
Yeah, there's, like, a bunch of little period touches throughout this part where, like, you see how they're dressed and how they talk. And this movie is strongest when it's people.
Yes.
Like, the people scenes, stuff with Cassie and Ben, stuff with Cassie and the girls. Later on, we get scenes with just the girls that are fantastic. Then they have to make the rest of the movie, and that's where it falls apart.
Yeah. Because what ends up happening is they go to the woods to, like, camp and hide out. And Cassie's like, I need to check something with my mom's notes. I'll be back in 3 hours. Y'all stay in the woods. Don't do dumb things.
Yeah.
Just stay here and don't do anything dumb. Seriously, don't do dumb things.
And this is very important. At one point, I believe it is Maddie goes, what if we get attacked again by that spider ... person?
It was like a spider person.
And I was like, I made that joke earlier in my notes.
So, Cassie runs back to her apartment, and she investigates everything from her mom, thinks about the spiders, and she goes, I might be able to climb a wall. I've never tried. So she tries to climb a wall and utterly eats shit.
She just falls down the wall. She's like, glad no one saw that.
And the stray cat watches judgily.
Oh, that's where the cat comes back.
Yeah, the cat's just watching her like, you gonna feed me? Or are you gonna die?
Just gonna run at the wall.
And then we go back to the girls, and they're talking about how there's a diner half a mile down the road. And they talk about having money, and who, like, Anya doesn't have money, Maddie does, because her uncle is J. Jonah Jameson. And so they decide to go to the diner and go, let's spend some of Maddie's daddy's pollution money.
Mm-hmm.
Julia's like, no, we can't go. We said we wouldn't leave. And so they go. And they leave a full-on burning campfire in the woods.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to point out.
That's not cool.
And there's one of the best lines in this, when they talk about people having money and going to jail for insider trading. Julia just goes, that's so sad about Martha Stewart. Because it's 2003.
Because it's 2003, remember.
So we get day to night. They say it's half a mile. How long does it take you to walk half a mile?
Into the evening, usually.
Yeah, like it goes from being...
It is woods walking, which is different than sidewalk walking.
Right. But half a mile, even going at a very leisurely pace, most people tend to walk about a 20-minute mile.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes.
Even if they were doubled it and made it a 40-minute mile, we should not have gotten from full daylight to full dark.
Yeah.
So the girls bicker about being lost, but they find the diner, and then the Daily Bugle truck goes by.
Yeah.
And you just look at me and go, is that the Daily Bugle?
Yeah.
And they order a ton of food because they have Maddie's daddy's money.
Yes, and they hungry.
Because they're teenage girls who haven't eaten in They actually do establish they had beef jerky and they ate it.
Yeah.
But teenage girls are at that age where, like, I need to eat everything in sight.
Mm-hmm.
So Julia gets distracted looking at a bunch of boys. Maddie is wholly unimpressed but just talking to them. And during this conversation, a trucker sees a newspaper that already says girls feared abducted.
Yes.
This also feels like a plot hole because this newspaper would have had to have gone to print and been distributed in the time. I mean, I guess that's why we see the Daily Bugle truck.
Yeah.
Because it just put out the evening edition.
And it would probably be pushed out very quickly.
If Maddie is one of the missing girls.
Yeah, which is relation to J. Jonah Jameson. I don't think this is that big of a plot hole. It is weird that his response is, those 3 girls are the 3 abducted girls. I better call the police and not speak to them.
Yeah, because these 3 girls are clearly comfortable.
Yeah.
Safe. I would have probably spoken to them and been like, what do you do? Because my first thought would have been hooky.
Yeah.
Because they kind of just look like they're not scared. They don't seem to be on the run at first sight. But there'd be no plot if they didn't.
So he calls the police, and because of all the NSA technology that Mr. Sims stole, they intercept the call. They stop the police from coming. And Mr. Sims drives a cool car there.
Yeah, and they say the diner's on Route 206. And I was like, did they end up at the Vincenttown Diner?
Yeah, that we actually been to this diner.
And there's a premonition that Cassie has where they're dancing to the song Toxic by Britney Spears on the table. And Julia apologizes a bunch to Cassie, and then Spider-Man gets her.
Yes. I will say that in the premonition, Spider-Man kills, 3 random people before he kills any of the girls, because he has to kill random bystanders first. That's his character flaw. So once, he kills Cassie. He kills Cassie Webb, and then she kind of, snaps out and goes, ooh, let's try that again. So now she's had that premonition. She knows she has to go in there with a different plan.
Yeah. And this is when the movie starts to feel like it's really dragging to me at this point.
Yeah, okay.
Despite the fact that it's very episodic and things happen quickly, the repetition with the premonitions does set up the, oh god, now we gotta watch this again.
Right.
So, Toxic is on the radio, and again, I have the same note of the period nods to this are the best part of this movie. Mm-hmm. It is also a plot hole, because Toxic is not released until November 2003, and we've established that it's considerably warmer earlier on.
Unless it's Christmas.
Unless it's November, it's just a weirdly warm November, because that lines up more with her watching a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So, Maddie dances on the table, convinces the other girls, and then during this, it's intercut with Cassie being behind a lumber truck, which is a real period bit, because real Y2K girlies know why being behind a lumber truck is scary.
You're going to get Final Destinationed.
My note here, real 2000s kids are shitting their pants right now. So they drag Anya up to the table. They're all 3 girls are dancing on the table. Julia is real dorky about it. The guy seems so confused.
Well, it is a football team who just came to be dudes, and then the 3 attractive women start table dancing, and nobody's stopping it.
Yeah.
Even guy who calls the cops is yeah, police, they're on the tables now. Are you guys on your way?
So, then Spider-Man comes in, and he's about to go after the girls when suddenly the taxi goes through the diner.
Yeah, she just runs in, hits Spider-Man with the taxi, interrupts the 3 girls' La Be Boheming, and is just I told you not to do dumb things. Get into the taxi.
So she yells at them, and the next time we see them, Spider-Man also poisons her a little bit because her hand's jacked up.
Yeah, she gets a touch of the poison.
So they get
that toxic running on you.
That toxic, I'm slipping. So they get in the cab, and Cassie full-on mom scolds the girls.
Yes.
Julia's apologizing. Cassie's really furious with them. And then back at Sim's headquarters, I can't believe it's not Oracle, mentions that Cassie is the daughter of Constance Webb, deceased. And Sims is oh, crap.
It's not possible. I'm trying to do this accent. It's insane.
So they all get a motel.
Yes.
A grown woman and 3 teenagers check into a seedy motel.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get the emotional exposition scene of essentially none of these girls has any meaningful available family.
Yes.
Julia's mom is in a psych ward after Julia's father left her. And Julia got on the train to run away to see if anyone would miss her.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie's parents are in China. Maddie is essentially a free-range child.
Yes.
Whose wealthy parents kind of feel like she put a damper on their lifestyle. Anya's mother is out of the picture, and her father has been deported.
Mm-hmm.
And she mentions, needing to stay under the radar until she's 18, and also that she can't be deported too. And I did find that a little confusing. I couldn't figure out if that meant she was undocumented herself, or if she just needed to stay under the radar until she was 18 because she's a citizen. And once she was 18, she could kind of make her own way, but right now she is a minor with no...
I think it was one of the situations where she was born in America, so she's an American, but she's underage, so she would go into the adoption, like, foster home system. And there's a chance that they would try to send her to her father in Mexico.
Yeah, so she's trying to stay in the U.S., so she needs to fly under the radar until she's 18. I have a moment here where I'm like, this movie is so good when it's focusing on the girls and their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Cassie has a vision in which she flees the motel, ends up at the 4-star diner, and has a conversation with Sims.
Yes.
In which he talks about his powers, his reasoning, the poison, everything that the hero needs to know about the villain is just conveniently dumped on her in this vision.
Yes, this feels like a very much added scene.
So Cassie then, like, wakes up and we see her teach the girls CPR.
Yes.
And I read this little bit of information. It was incorrectly deemed a mistake in the movie. She teaches them incorrectly.
I actually have this note, so I'm curious if I was right.
She teaches them correctly for 2003.
Oh, she teaches them correctly for 2003.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt like what she was doing was correct now. Because in 2003, it's beats of 15 2 breaths. But today, it's continuous presses. And I think you skip the breaths because it's all about stimulating the heart.
Let me confirm. Please confirm.
Because I actually have here in the notes of, like, I think that's correct now, but wrong for 2003. Because she basically she says, like, interlace your hands, push deep, keep the rhythm. And then one of the girls says, when do you stop? And she says, you don't.
So what I saw on IMDb is that in a post 9/11 world, they were teaching Cassie would be doing the 2 rescue breaths.
Okay.
Ben would have been doing them, but they may not have been teaching
civilians.
3 random girls who are not going to get any follow-up training.
Yeah.
Because I have, like, a rescue breather CPR shield on my purse.
Yeah, I was a lifeguard for years, so I get this.
So I thought that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Cassie decides to go to Peru. And, like, I know that sounded super random and very abrupt. Yes.
Yes. Because I have a note here of, like, because Ben's watching them. She's like, I have to go to Peru. And now we're suddenly in Peru. That this is starting to feel more like a Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
Because, like, this feels like a new episode. Is, like, now I'm in Peru. And there's something that, like, our brains can kind of deal with. Where there's a beat between episodes. Even if it's just, like, you're marathoning them. That, like, an amount of time can pass. Where a person can get on a plane and go to Peru. But she's just like Nightcrawler poof bamps and is in Peru. So she goes to Peru to find her mother. And what happened to her mother. She has her mother's notes and, like, photographs. And there's a great moment where she holds up a picture of some trees and the river. To realize that they are in the same spot that she was in. Because you know what trees don't do in 30 years? Grow.
Also...
They're identical.
Like, you're in the Amazon.
Yeah, I was like, oh, clearly these are the same 3 trees.
It's... bit of a reach.
And then... Dude appears.
Yes.
It is the dude that promised to be there when her daughter returned looking for answers. But apparently in the meantime, a Hollister had opened.
Yeah, he's wearing more contemporary clothing.
I was like, wait a minute, what is this?
One thing I do want to point out before we leave that, before she gets... Ben is way too cool about all this.
Yeah.
Up to and including her rehoming 3 missing girls like foster puppies.
Yeah, so the police are looking for these girls. I need you to look after them. If the police were to find you, they will think you're a kidnapper.
So, this nice man tells us that Sims has been cursed by stealing the spider and takes her to where her mother died and where she was born. Does a full-on Aladdin, do you trust me? And then he Doctor Strange shoves her into the water and she can see through time.
Okay. There's one important line I need to say before she gets pushed through time. Is they are walking through the Amazon rainforest. He's explaining stuff, and he's like, what do you think? And she says,
I think she was crazy for coming here alone.
Cassie, you came here alone. She didn't.
Yeah.
She went with a team of people. You're the crazy person who came here alone.
That is true.
Thank you. Let's talk about being pushed through time.
She meets her mother, essentially.
Yes.
And Constance apologizes to the woman who becomes Cassie, and Cassie sees her mother in a doctor's office, finding out that her unborn child has been diagnosed with a genetic neuromuscular disorder, which the character has in the comics.
Yes.
And so Constance went to the Amazon to follow a hypothesis that could save her child. Not because she was stubborn and...
Or a workaholic.
So Cassie and her mother connect across time. Cassie forgives her mother. Her mother apologizes. How much for Therapy Lake? Like, can we go to Therapy Lake? Because, man, that would make money.
Yeah, it's in Peru.
Yeah, but, like, he punched her so hard she was no longer mentally ill.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then he tells her...
Oh my god, I forgot!
You are the only one who can change the future. And when you take on the responsibility, great power will come.
And I can't believe Noah forgot this because he screamed when they said this line. I'm so glad we didn't see this movie in theaters because we would have been thrown out after that line. Because Noah would have gone, no!
I wish I was in a theater with a bunch of people when that was said out loud. When you take on the responsibility, great power will come. It isn't like, I wish I was in the writer's room when someone was like, yo, what if they said, they probably laughed him out of the room, wrote it down, we're like, we got to remember to remove that later. And then they just never got around to it. It is one of the greatest lines I've ever heard in a movie.
My note is, thanks, I hate it.
When you take on it doesn't even make sense. When you take on the responsibility, great power will come. Oh, I haven't fallen in love with a line like this in quite some time. It is magical that made it to the screen.
I realized, I called her Amaria earlier because I looked up the assistant's name. In my notes, I keep calling her Bad Janet. Like
from the Good Place?
Bad Janet can't find the girls. And then we see Ben staying in Mary's house with these 3 teenage girls. So picture it. Mary is heavily pregnant.
Yeah.
She is post-baby shower, which generally means you are in late 3rd trimester. And now your brother-in-law is there to help you because your husband is away somewhere, and he has brought 3 teenage girls with him.
Yeah.
That cannot go outside.
Yeah, don't ask any questions.
So he lectures them to pick up after themselves, and then Mary's water breaks 4 weeks early.
Yes.
I want to point out here, Mary is Emma Roberts.
Yes, from Scream Queens.
Which is an odd fit because it's not a very big role for a recognizable actor.
Well, this was clearly going to spawn many sequels.
So, Ben shoves the girls and Mary in a car. Mary is sitting in the middle of the back seat.
Yeah.
This is stupid for 2 reasons. 1, the pregnant woman is now in the spot where she has the least space.
Yeah.
2, if you have 3 girls trying not to be seen, why are all 3 of them sitting by windows?
By windows.
And the one person whose face can be seen with no drama in the middle.
In the middle.
Because, like, I would have had her sitting up front.
Yeah.
And then the girls, all with their hoods up, kind of, like, crouched over in the back seat. And this is foreshadowing because Maddie looks out a window and is caught in 4K.
Yes.
Through a surveillance camera that would never be able to see. A 2003
These are the most advanced.
Bodega
These are the most
surveillance
advanced
camera.
NSA cameras. The subplot of this is that the government is evil and spying on its own citizens in a post 9/11 world. You know, I said that as a joke, but you know what? I think that actually might be part of the point of this movie.
So it was absolutely wild that that's how that goes. And then we then see Cassie get back to Ben's.
Oh my god, do I love this.
And
Cassie returns to try to pick up the girls from
Ben's house.
Ben's house. And she gets there, looks in the window. They show a puddle in the kitchen. And she goes, oh my god, her water broke.
I mean, that makes sense. Everyone's gone. And there's a pile of water that no one cleaned up.
Just the fact that they showed, like, a puddle. I was like, oh. And then the ambulance that they called finally shows up. And they're like, we're here to deliver the baby. And Cassie's like, oh, cool, free ambulance. And just steals it.
So, yeah, she steals the ambulance. She does apologize. She's like, sorry. So I hope that person wasn't, like, dying.
They're there to deliver the baby.
Oh.
That's why they show up, is because Ben called them to pick up Mary, but Mary's already gone.
Which was dumb because, like, they could have just picked up Mary.
They're so late because of the traffic. Like, there was a whole thing because Ben works for is an EMT. Like, they're like, we know exactly how long it'll take to get there.
Yeah.
Like, he has insider information.
So, she then has a premonition of the girls dying in a wreck, and Sims turns all the traffic lights green. To either, I guess, kill the girls in a car accident, or to trap them. And trapping them is what happens.
Yeah.
He could have trapped them all by turning the lights red, too.
Yeah, but he's a jerk, he's evil.
And not killed any other people.
He don't care.
So, Spider-Man jumps in the hood, and in a truly great scene, that we don't see how this happens. Spider-Man jumps on the hood of the car, and then is immediately taken out by Cassie flying through a garage in a car in midair.
She flies through this garage. She bursts through, I believe, a Calvin Klein billboard.
Yes.
And flies into Spider-Man with the old flying ambulance trick. It's truly incredible cinema.
It's easily the best shot in the film.
But and on top of that, the ambulance survives the fall.
Yeah.
And they all jump in.
Well, she then backs over Sims as well.
Yeah. And like now they're using the ambulance to escape.
Yeah.
And there's a fantastic little fun bit where she's driving the ambulance. He's Spider-Manning after them, like jumping light post to light post. And she has one of the girls charge the defibrillator paddles.
Yes.
And when he lands on the ambulance, they electrocute the entire ambulance. And he just gets electrocuted and falls off. And one of the girls goes, now you're just showing off. And she goes, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun little moment. My note here is, this is fun, see? More this.
Yeah.
Less Cassie contemplating. So the poor ambulance is, like, tired.
The ambulance just breaks for no reason.
And they go to what I thought was a firework factory that was burning down at the beginning of the movie, but nope, it's a Pepsi-Cola plant. You know how I know that? There's a giant Pepsi sign.
I thought it was fireworks with a Pepsi advertisement on
Maybe.
it. But because she has had this like long premonition of how she can get out of this. And it involves going to the firework factory, knowing that he will chase her, and throwing flares into random crates. So now fireworks are just going off everywhere. It is the brawn of Mr. Sims as Spider-Person versus the mental power of seeing the future of Madam Web.
Yes. Brains versus brawn.
And then, so it's this just insane scene where, like, they ask a helicopter for help. Because she's an EMT, she knows, like, the code to call in for a helicopter. And this kind of, like, semi-fight scenes going on, but it's mostly them just dodging fireworks. And Cassie's, like, calling out, like, duck and jump to dodge the fireworks so that they hit Sims.
Yeah.
And then she has a vision that the Pepsi sign will fall apart. Mm-hmm. And that the P will fall and crush Sims.
Yep.
And I, being the adult I am, go, ha, she's got pee on him. Yeah, but get pee on him. Pee on him. Pee on him, Madam Web. It's like she's urinating.
They also call a rescue helicopter, and that's their plan, is to get into the rescue helicopter.
I said that.
So, I needed to get us back on track. There's a point where Maddie skateboards on sheet metal that I just wanted to point out.
Yeah, that's a fun little bit.
And at one point, Sims gets near Julia, they get a firework near him, and he punches it out of the air and into the helicopter.
Yes, helicopter explodes. Oh no. Then, it should be noted, and I'm sorry that we didn't stress this, that Abercrombie and Finch arachnid person mentions that you can, once you learn to master your powers, you'll be able to be in multiple places at once. All the girls end up in peril.
Yeah. They actually all at least get a lick in, too.
They all do get a lick in. But then they all end up in peril, and Sims is like, ha! You can't save all three of them.
Like every Spider-Man movie has this.
Yeah.
Usually it's Mary Jane or, like, children. But there's always a you can't save both of them. And this time it's 3!
You know what? That's a really good shout, actually.
Yeah, I'm smart.
Because not only that, she's successful.
Yeah.
Because she splits herself up into 3, so she can be in 3 different places and saves all 3 of them.
Yes.
Something Spider-Man could never do. Because when you take responsibility, great power will come. See, if we had just said it to Spider-Man correctly, he would have had great power.
So she astral projects, saves all 3, and then Sims punches her in the face, and that ends the effect. And she starts to lure him toward the sign.
Yes.
To try to make that happen. And there's a great moment where he goes, "You're just like your mother." And she goes, "Yep. Yes, I am."
Yes, I am. The letter falls on him.
He gets pinned by other wreckage first.
Yes.
And then she goes,
You've been trying to change your future. But the girls were never your future. I was.
Which is the wrong line. You were so worried about changing your future. The girls never were your future, I am. The line should be, you were so concerned about changing your future. You did.
Yeah.
Dead. That's the line.
Yep.
But I'm your future doesn't make sense to say before a guy dies.
You could have even done like a full-on, you know what happens to toads that get hit by lightning. You could have been like, well, the good news is you changed your future. The bad news is you changed your future.
Yeah. The bad news is clang.
The bad news is it's early.
like it's so close to being a good line. They just miss it.
So all three girls scream as the sign collapses and Cassie falls into the water with the sign.
Yes.
And while this is happening, she gets hit in the face with a firework.
Yes.
Which is important.
She hits the water and like, this is something that we didn't bring up. The whole time, Cassie Webb wears this like red coat. This red like pleather coat. She falls into the water. And with the brown hair and the red coat as she sinks into the water, it looks very Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
I was like, oh,
you go, she looks like Aerith.
I was like, oh no. So she falls into the water. The girls pull her out. And because she learned CPR, they bring her back. And when she opens her eyes are all like cloudy because the firework has now taken her sight.
Yeah.
We then cut to the hospital just to check in. Mary successfully has the baby, in case you were worried.
Yes.
No.
They
don't get Tom Holland.
And do you notice when they pull away what we see?
No.
A shot of the curtain. And the curtain looks like a web.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's this like, it's a gray, like, you would think of it as like a honeycomb pattern or a web pattern. And that's what we see as it pulls out of that hospital sequence.
Yeah. And the doctor was Dr. the Rhino.
Don't be ridiculous. It was Dr. Octavius. And then we go to where Cassie is, and all the girls are okay. And they talk to her about the baby being born. They're like, yeah, Ben's really excited to be an uncle. All of the fun and none of the responsibility. And she just smiles and goes, that's what he thinks. So she just smiles knowing like, hey, that baby's mom's gonna die.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Like, she's real cool about.
I thought it was more of a take on no power, no responsibility. Like, oh, look, you're talking about Uncle Ben not having responsibility. But you're right. She totally sees the future and knows that her mom's gonna die. Oh, my God.
Like, she's way too, like, and then a nurse comes in and goes, are these all immediate family? And Cassie goes, yes, they're all mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we get some time has passed. She's in a motor scooter in a cool apartment with dark glasses as the girls come in having gotten takeout and complaining that Cassie left her junk mail downstairs again.
Yes.
And don't worry, the girls are not just going to like eat their takeout dry.
No.
They're going to drink Pepsi.
They have fancy glass bottles of Pepsi.
And I have a moment where I'm like, oh, they're living off Maddie's daddy's pollution money.
Yes.
Because there's no, like, she was an EMT.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way she had the money for this apartment.
Yes.
So we also established Cassie is still good with her powers. And they go like, oh, are you okay? And she goes, I've never seen better than this. And she sees the girls fighting crime, and then the last shot is all the girls in their superhero costumes, with her in her costume as Madam Web.
Yes, looking very reminiscent of the Madam Web I know from the Fox cartoon, where she's in the wheelchair that kind of like floats.
And that's Madam Web.
And then credits over Dreams by the Cranberries plays. And
not a song from 2003.
And there is no post-credit scene in a Marvel superhero movie.
A Marvel associated movie.
The one that's about getting glimpses of the future doesn't have a post-credit scene.
Yep.
Furious. 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 Oh, and that, my friends, is Madam Web.
Yeah.
Any like bits of trivia or anything you wanted to add before
I kind of
we
peppered
get to...
them throughout.
Yes, you did.
So I don't have as many little end tidbits because I'm trying to get better at, putting them in throughout our discussions. It's a weird movie. I think one of the weirdest parts of it was when it was released, how quickly its stars turned on it.
Yeah.
And so Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney make fun of the movie a lot.
Yes. I guess then I'll just ask you, stay tuned or stay doomed?
Stay doomed. Mm-hmm. Because I think there are parts of this movie that were genuinely very fun, mm-hmm. but it got very bogged down. Dakota Johnson makes a comment about this movie felt like it was made by committee, mm-hmm. and that really damaging the film.
Okay.
And I think the moments where you could see a real screenwriter shining through were really good, but I think there were too many... The plot itself was really sloppy.
Okay. When it comes to these Razzie movies, one thing we've often talked about is the -10 to 10 scale, where 0 means that there's just no joy to be had, 10 is legitimate great film, -10 is a really fun bad movie like The Room. On that scale, I would give this movie a 7. I legitimately really like this movie.
I would get, I have a hard time because I think there's parts of it I genuinely enjoyed, parts of it I enjoyed because they sucked, and then the pacing kills this movie.
Don't get me wrong. This movie is flawed. There's definitely issues with it. But for the most part, you're telling a story that is about seeing a premonition and then changing it. So you kind of need to do both scenes twice.
Yeah.
And you're also telling the story of Cassidy Webb discovering these powers, not knowing how to wield them, and learning to wield them by the end of it. So it kind of needs to be sloppy in the beginning. So it does feel kind of like long and dragged out with the barbecue scene and how long she spends on the train before Spider Person shows up. But then by the end, she'll look at something during this fireworks fight, see it happen, then be like, all right, Maddie Duck, on to the next thing. And it works now. You see her growth of her powers. And it is a great story of the person who got the brawn of the spider versus the person who got the brain of the spider.
I can see that. I also, in my research, saw what the movie was originally in one of the original scripts, because mm-hmm. Dakota Johnson admitted that the movie that we saw was not the movie she thought she signed on to.
Okay.
And that makes a lot of sense. Because you know how I mentioned Mary Parker being a weirdly large name actress?
Yes.
For how small the role was?
Okay.
The movie was originally supposed to be more centered on Madam Web and the girls protecting Mary.
Oh, interesting.
Because of who her child was going to become.
Oh, okay. That sounds more Madam Webby, to be honest.
Yeah, trying to protect Mary. Because you kind of were when you were killing baby Hitler, I was like,
Whoop.
So that was more of the original concept, and Tom Holland did appear in concept art.
Really?
Yes, he did not appear in the film, but he did appear in some concept art.
Should have been the baby.
He's 30.
I know, but to be funny. Another thing, here's a brief script doctory thing that I would have done. The parts about CPR seem really, forced and unfun. What I would have done is, during the hotel scene, the way that you usually teach CPR, if you've seen, I don't know, The Office, is through a song, you keep the rhythm. And it's usually staying alive.
Yes.
Staying alive, staying alive. What you then do is you have these three girls go, I've never heard that song.
Yeah.
Because they're teenage girls in 2003. They're like, yeah, what is this song? I don't get it. And then, when they bring her back to life, they have to keep the rhythm, but they don't know Staying Alive. So, the taste of your lips are on my mind. You're toxic, comes tipping under. And then she brought that to life to something about toxin.
Also dumb and funny.
And it's a callback to earlier. Like, little script doctor things like that could have really helped this film. Because the parts where they are kind of having fun
are great.
Are the best parts of it. And if... I think at the end, if the epic battle is good. Like, there's a great video, I think it's In Frame Out that does it, about how you should do your climactic scenes. And their big example of the best high concept thing at the end is the fight scene from Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And it is a fight scene between a liquid metal robot being fought with liquid nitrogen. You will never see that in any other movie.
Right.
This psychic battle in the chaos of a firework explosion where you can see the future is a great high concept battle.
Yeah, they don't quite deliver on it.
I think for the tone of this movie, it would have been more beneficial if instead of doing the whole, like, you can't save three of them type things, if they took this guy who has been basically a Terminator the whole time through this film. He shows up, he's unstoppable. So they hit her with a car and run away because fighting doesn't work. To, in this moment, make him a chump.
Yeah.
Like, this should be the Neo seeing the Matrix moment where Agent Smith, who had been kicking his ass, is getting blocked with one hand while he's thinking. That, I think, would have been a stronger thing. And might I just say, if you read any critic's review about this, they will make fun of the fact that she hits people with cars. But you know what? She's an ambulance driver. It's the skill she knows well.
Yeah.
She's like the shoveler. God gave me a gift. I shovel well.
And, like, also, it makes a lot of sense because she's a 30-year-old woman with no physical powers.
Mm-hmm.
What else is she supposed to do?
Yeah. You know, it like Indiana Jones tries to solve everything with a whip because he knows how to use a whip.
Yeah.
So she's going to solve everything with a car because she's a hell of a driver.
Baby Driver, Madam Web crossover when?
Damn it. I really liked this movie.
I thought it dragged. I did not enjoy it, but I did think there were parts of it that really dragged. And there were parts of it where I think the filmmakers should have just known we weren't stupid.
Yeah.
Like being like wink wink about like Ben going, I met someone. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, we know.
But like, I would like, this movie should not be worst movie of the year.
No.
Depending on how the other things I see, I could vote for it for worst directing. Because there's some shots in it that's like, what are you doing?
I think I could vote for it for worst screenplay because I think there's a lot of pieces where they change. When you're writing and when you're editing, you have to remember to re-edit things.
Yes.
And they would, I think, edit chunks of it and then forget to edit the rest of it.
Like, I can understand why a person would not like this film. Should this film be in the conversation for worst picture? I don't think so. I would straight up say this movie is good. And I feel bad that people will talk about this movie in the same breath as Morbius. Because it's miles better than Morbius.
That is true. Morbius had one scene I genuinely liked. This had quite a few.
Yeah.
I just wanted to look, because worst supporting actress, Emma Roberts gets nominated for Mary Parker, and I think that's unfair.
I agree.
I don't think she does enough.
No.
For that to feel fair. That being said, I could totally vote for Ezekiel Sims for worst actor.
Okay. Yeah, because his voice actor was bad.
Yeah, well, the ADR crushes his performance. He might have done really well if they had used the lines that he had probably said while they were filming.
Yeah.
But the ADR kills his performance.
I just checked our Discord to see if they had any questions about or comments about Madam Web, and we got a resounding didn't see it.
Yep.
So I hope you see it. I think it's good.
There's definitely parts of it that are more fun. I think, if anything, a little bit of tonal shift and making it even sillier would have helped.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Make it... have the girls be more annoying. More scenes like the diner. More scenes like them bickering in the woods. I think one of the reasons I complain this movie drags is it took us way too long to get to the girls. The movie is best when it's either Cassie and Ben or Cassie and the girls. Anything that's not those two things does drag.
Do they ever actually find out why this guy wants to kill them? Like, she has the one vision in the diner.
Cassie, I think, does. I don't think the girls ever find out.
Because you know what would be a super cool scene? Him saying something like, I have to kill you now. Because you become those superheroes that murder me in my sleep.
Yeah, them getting powers totally dropped.
Well, right. I think the idea of this movie is to make you want to see the movie where they get powers. But I think a good scene would be to have him say that, and the girls be like, whoa, we get superpowers? Go on.
Yeah.
Like, that's the comedy I really enjoyed.
We never find out how. Because I was expecting there to be a point where they were in his apartment.
Yeah.
And the spider gets out. And, we just don't know it. We find out he's missing, and we can be like, okay, the spider probably bit the girls, and they're gonna develop powers as soon as this movie's over.
I'm more of saying that, I understand that in the idea of Sony, which will never happen now, was that the next movie is their origin story of how they get powers. But to have a moment where the girls are the audience surrogates, where they actually are like, wait a minute, we get superpowers, tell us more, and then they don't get answers and they're disappointed, and we can relate to that, it would be a great scene. A great scene. So that's all I got to say about Madam Web.
Yeah, Madam Web was fun.
I like it. I liked it a lot. What do you want to watch next week?
I think it might be a good week for Joker Folie Deux.
Oh, let's stay in the... we're still here in the superhero plot of the Razzies.
Also, voting will start... We've already seen Borderlands, and voting is going to start.
Right.
And so I wanted it to either be Joker Folie Deux or Megalopolis. And I wanted... That'll be like our kind of pre-Valentine's Day episode. Is Joker Folie Deux.
Folie Deux. That's going to do it for today on Stay Doomed. Hey, real quick, go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds to those who observe.
Yes.
And if you don't observe, go Birds.
Go Birds. Where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Blue Sky at Stay Doomed.
And if you thought Madam Web was a good movie, talk to me. I'm at TV's Noah on Blue Sky and Instagram.
If you would have just liked to watch 2 hours of Maddie, Julia, and Anya bickering over Y2K era crap, I'm at Laura Crane on Blue Sky. Until next time, stay doomed.
Go Birds!
Go Birds!